Welcome back to GameStar TV with the Season 2 qualifiers for Heroes of the Storm. We are into Week 3 and this is the Game 4 of the night, and it's going to be Nomia up against TrumpSports. Nomia, for pretty much a year by now, have been touted as the best in the region, have consistently been at the very top, and TrumpSports, although a bit new in name, have got a lot of players who have been around in the scene for quite some time and have put together quite a few strong performances throughout this season. So we have to see how they match up against them. It is going to be on Tomb of the Spider Queen, and we'll have to. It's interesting to see where both of these teams end up with their compositions. Wave clear is a rather highly prioritized asset when it comes to the draft, so things like Gul'dan are quite popular, but it's actually going to be the Malfurion. There's going to be the first ban on the side of TrumpSports. Not wanting to allow that one to go over on the first rotation for Nomia, because more often than not, the Malfurion, although is an extremely highly prioritized support, using the first pick on the Malfurion is not the most common of strategies. It usually ends up going on the other over to the first pick for the opposing side. Usually with their first two picks, they are free to pick up the Malfurion plus something else to complement it. So not wanting to pick that up first, but really not wanting to allow Nomia to pick that up. Quite a solid first ban for TrumpSports, and now I have to wait and see what the response is from Nomia. Just thinking back on the map as well, even though it is a 3-lane map, it's not the biggest, so globals don't necessarily have as high a priority, but there is a fair amount priority on wave clear, and also, as we see, the Chromie first banned away from Nomia, just really not wanting to allow that range damage, the range burst coming out from TrumpSports. So taking that away, and now we're coming into the first picks. Very interesting to see where they go, whether or not the Gul'dan is going to be a first pick for TrumpSports, really locking down that wave clear right off the bat. And even from there, they can go, go a fair few ways with the draft if they want to go pretty much all in on the Gul'dan, but it's actually going to be the Arthas. So taking that away, not only as a strong pick, but also away from Fat94, who has had an incredible amount of strong performances with the Arthas most recently, with the changes to Arthas making him very strong and very hard to deal with, and also has the wave clear, and pretty much everything he brings is very much prioritized on this map. So a very strong pick there for TrumpSports, and now we have to see what Nomia end up going with. If they do go for something more tried and true, like the Tassadar Valor that they use a fair bit, or they go more towards the mages, if they want to just go for the wave clear as well. I mean, Leoric does bring a decent amount of wave clear with his skeletal swing, and it is going to be the Gul'dan taken away for Nomia, so very strong picks at the start for Nomia. The Leoric, he did receive a buff recently to his skeletal swing and also some of his skeletal swing talents, I believe, and also his auto attack damage. So the boost in power is nice for him. It allows him to be much more efficient when it comes to wave clear, and we'll have to see how he fits into this draft, or whether or not it's going to be a solo tank Leoric, or whether or not they're going to have something else to try and support that front line. Gul'dan isn't necessarily the safest of heroes to play. He has to be very aware of his positioning, how to be right on top of his positioning, because if he gets locked down, he can very much go down very easily, and you have to see how TrumpSports do combat these first two picks from Nomia. It's just going to be the ETC and the Li Ming. Okay, so already the front line lockdown for TrumpSports. The ETC and the Arthas, very hard to push through. ETC and Arthas also bring a lot of crowd control. It can be very awkward to deal with, and also a bit awkward to play around. And the Gul'dan is going to have to be incredibly on top of his positioning. If that lockdown combo starts with the ETC into the Arthas, it is going to be very hard for the Gul'dan to actually get out of it. So that could be very much in the mind of Nomia coming into the rest of the draft. Is like, do we need to draft a bit more protection for the Gul'dan to allow him to just output so much damage consistently? We'll have to see where they go with it. As we are coming into the second bands of the draft, we'll have to see where they go because the support still hasn't been picked up on either side. We'll have to see if that's going to be a priority for either of the teams when it comes to the bans. I mean, the Lucio is something that could be picked up for either side as a way to either get in or out of fights, but it is going to be the Nazebo taken away, so a lot of sustained damage coming out of the Nazebo, just taken completely off the board. Not wanting to allow that to go through can do a lot of work, and with a map like 2-Minute Spider Queen, it does tend to go a fair bit longer on average game time when it comes to game time, so the Nazebo more often than not will get to level 20 where him and his Vile Infection becomes so incredibly powerful and really starts to take over games, so not wanting to allow that to go through, and it's actually going to be the Valor taken away by TrumpSports, not wanting to allow that very consistent damage coming out of the Valor, and John's Valor in particular, to really be a pain for TrumpSports. So taking that away, and now we're on to Nomia's next picks. There's still a fair bit to fill out when it comes to their composition. Maybe they do want to go for some other kind of bruiser to stay on the front line, or at least body block for the Gul'dan to allow him to be safe. And there's also the support needs to come in. Not sure if they want to leave their support to last, just to see if they want to be countering something in particular. But there's still quite a bit on the board for Nomia. I'll have to see where they go though. Alright, so the Johanna taken away, so they are going to be having an incredibly beefy front line as well. With the Johanna and the Leoric, very hard to push through, and it is going to be another damage dealer. It's going to be the Tychus to go alongside the Gul'dan. We mentioned this earlier, but the Tychus did receive a little bit of a buff to the percentage damage from the minigun, so he will be able to shred through those tanks quite well. And now we are waiting on their last pick for the support, and have to see if they have some tricky pick up their sleeve that they want to try out in some of these games. But now we are over to TrumpSports to see where they go with their composition. They will need another damage dealer. The Greymane is a potential, and also their support. So things like Lucio, the Rhaegar, things like Karazim are still available. The only thing that's been taken off the board has been that Malfurion. So there's quite a bit when it comes to the support pool. It just depends on where they want their composition to go. Yeah, so the last two picks, they're really taking a fair amount of time. Both sides really wanted to be very sure of their picks coming into the rest of the draft. It's actually going to be the Jaina, so going incredibly heavy on the magic damage. And it's going to be the Karazim at the end. So very nice way to mitigate the armor coming out of the Johannas, just pumping out a lot of magic damage with the Liming and the Jaina. Whether or not it's going to be enough to push through that lineup, and whether or not it's going to be enough damage to win these fights remains to be seen. And Karazim, I mean, there's quite a few strong options still on the board, but the Karazim is going to be the one favoured by TrumpSports, and it is going to be the Lucio last pick. They're going to be very strong and able to keep his team quite mobile. And we'll have to see how they play around these fights, because Lucio, very strong, but doesn't have the burst healing that you'd expect out of something like a Malfurion or a Rhaegar. So we have to see if the burst magic damage coming out of this TrumpSports lineup will be able to push through what the Lucio is able to bring when it comes to sustain. But we are going to be getting into the game. It is Nomia up against TrumpSports. It's going to be on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Alrighty, on the blue side we have Nomia, it is Fat94 actually on the Leoric, it is John on Gul'dan, Robodoba on Johanna, Arcana on Tychus, and Vanilla on the Lucio. And on the red side we have TrumpSports, it is the Shadow on Karazim, Lahal on the Jaina, Jim Jam on Li Ming, Deuces on Arthas, and KVA on the ETC. And we are into round 4 of week 3 here in the GameStar Season 2 qualifiers here in Australia and New Zealand, to see how this game goes. Because last week we saw Fat actually move over to the Malfurion because he at the time said that he wasn't all that comfortable on the Leoric, but now we see him on it right now. Maybe put a bit of time into that and see how this goes. It's going to be a bit of aggressive positioning on the side of Nomia. They are very, very happy to push forward. It's going to be the suit of flame, the Fell Flame build for the Gul'dan, not the Corrupting Echo. It's a fight at level 1. A lot of damage going down onto the tanks of Nomia, but they do return the damage onto KVA, and he is forced away. The push in favor at the very start to Nomia, and they're going to be able to rotate first to the top side of the map and start getting some of those gems for those web weavers. But the wave play coming out of the Jaina is really quite strong and very hard to actually combat and get the wave clear first on the side of Nomia. So a very strong tool for TrumpSports to actually work with, but very far forward with this Lucio being very aggressive. It takes a lot of damage out of the double mage. So will be able to boost himself back up to health, but still a lot of damage. It's very hard for him to quickly get all that health back. But bottom line, we do have Fat94. He's going to Wraith walk himself out as he had the tip off from his allies that there was going to be a few members coming down to try and take him down. But again, Vanilla on this Lucio playing quite aggressively with the wall riding. He does have Accelerando, so his wall riding speed is going to be much higher. He's able to be very, very nimble and very annoying to deal with for the side of TrumpSports, who have a lot of skill shots for them to actually work. Fat94 again managing to mitigate a gank attempt coming out of TrumpSports, so nice start coming out from Nomia, playing it very safe as they are going to try and catch them in rotation. Vanilla here gliding around on the egg, but not going to be able to get anyone on the rotation, but it is just going to be gems traded back and forth. So far a little bit in favor of Nomia. There's not really much of a difference in experience just yet, as KVA is going to be the next target, taking a lot of damage from the Tychus, who is going to get power slid. There's not going to be any follow-up on the side of TrumpSports, and now the damage is going to return. A lot of damage coming out of the Gul'dan, going to use the Fell Flame and the Corruption to do a fair bit. It's just going to force the members of TrumpSports away. It's just going to give the rotation priority over to Nomia. So on the bottom side of the map, we do have Fat Andrews who's just duking out. Fat94 does have to sustain, as we see with this life drain. It's very hard for a tank to be able to deal with all that damage coming out from the life drain, as Arcana does come down to try and force away the Arthas, but it's going to be a bit of wave clear as Shadow does move in to try and deny the turn in for Robodoba. Does manage to get himself out there with the dashing strike. It's not going to be any gems handed in just yet, but still, it's just a bit of training. It's a very reserved early game for both sides. So we haven't had much engagements just yet, as KP does go power sliding in, but it's just going to take a lot of damage from Arcana. This Tiger's doing a lot of damage still, even though he did get those nerfs, still does a lot of damage as it is percentage with the minigun. It's very hard to deal with this. So we get some of the gems turned in, 15 on the side of Nomia, 13 for TrumpSports, but a big hand in on the top side of the map. I think it was Robodoba. Yeah, he managed to get his stack in, so they are very close to the first web weavers of the game. And there's a bit of space on the bottom side of the map. Arcana doesn't have any. He's already handed his in. He's just going to try and help out Fat in pushing down this lane. He does have the gems to hand in to get a turn in. It's just up to TrumpSports to see if they're able to pick him off in rotation. KVA and Lahal do come down to try and deny the turn in. Lahal's trying to do a bit of damage. KVA is going to get denied, as is the Shadow, thanks to the shield glare from Robodoba, as the power slide does come in onto the two members of Nomia. They're just starting to get the lockdown, but the face mail does knock him away from the lockdown, but and ETC is going to die for it. So a nice kill going over to Nomia, the first of the game, and a very good start as the Shadow goes diving in, and he's just going to take a lot of damage. He's going very low. The grenade is going to almost finish him off. The Corruption was just a little bit too short, as the Shadow does get out of there, but took a lot of damage and almost went down, and it was a bit over aggressive on the side of the Shadow. just for pretty much no value, as the Web Weavers are going to be coming down for the blue side. They do manage to get their turn in with the space that they got with that fight, and now they're able to apply a lot of pressure, get a bit more of an experience lead. They do have a little bit of an experience lead. They did have a talent lead for a slight bit, but that has been regained by TrumpSports, able to stay in this game. It's only one kill down on the side of TrumpSports. It was the EGC getting a little bit too aggressive, and just a little bit of miscommunication allowed him to get taken off. Here comes a push in the middle lane. John on this Gul'dan is going to be able to apply a lot of pressure with the very, very consistent damage coming out of the Bellflame as here comes a power slide onto two members. Robodobo taking a lot of damage. The Iron Skin is going to get him out of there, and now the damage is being returned. Here comes Deuces on the Arthurs trying to lock down the Gul'dan, who does get taken down, and so that's going to be a nice kill going over to TrumpSports. They do get the kill, but they are going to be losing a lot of structures around the map. The Web Weavers are still pushing in the top and the bottom. Fat94 still is going to apply a lot of pressure down here, so they're still able to get, even though they did lose a Gul'dan, Nomia are still getting advantages around the map. As we do see TrumpSports come up to try and take care of this top Web Weaver, able to take it down without too much of a problem, without losing too much as well, as KVA goes diving in but doesn't get anyone with the lockdown, as they are going to try and return the damage down onto him, but the overkill used by Arcana not having enough mana, he's going to back away. So a nice start coming as they do get the lockdown onto the Lucio, who is going to try and get himself away. The speed boost is going to help out. Without the consistent lockdown from the side of TrumpSports, the Lucio is going to be able to get out of that, but a bit of a scary situation there. He got taken quite low, but the Web Weavers do finally get taken down, but not at the cost of so many of their structures. The bottom fort does fall, and level 10 has already been picked up for Nomia. And TrumpSports are still a fair bit behind. They're not even level 9 yet, so they have to be playing quite safe. Be very careful with their positioning, as if they step too far forward, the Entomb is going to come in, the Horrify could be used, and actually going with the Falling Sword on the side of the Johanna, so wanting to really double down on the punishment of out of position. Anyone out of position, just taking them down. It's going to be the Odin. It's actually going to be the Sound Barrier to deal with a lot of the burst coming out of TrumpSports. So very strong heroics on the side of Nomia, and they are very aggressive. Both of the Merc camps in the middle of the map were taken, but with how much pressure Nomia is allowed to apply, having the level advantage, they are going to just keep on pushing through with this camp, get even more advantage, take this fort, and just move elsewhere around the map. Fat, meanwhile, was on the bottom side of the map, just applying pressure, forcing the Arthurs to stick around to at least match the pressure, as the blue Web Weavers are going to be coming in for a second time. So really nice play coming out of Nomia, continuing to apply the pressure and not allowing TrumpSports any kind of avenue to get back in. John is doing a lot of damage and is really going to be stacking it up with the Pursuit of Flame. It's going to do a lot of work as we get later and later. This game's going very hard for TrumpSports to deal with this competition unless they get onto one of those high priority targets right away. With KVA on the ETC, they are level 10, so they can start to get a play happening. The Odin does get popped out as the Falling Sword is going to be used. It lands onto two members, doing a lot of damage as the Sound Barrier does come out and mitigates a lot of the damage coming out of TrumpSports. One member has already gone down. The Jaina is down, and that's a lot of the consistent damage just out of the fight. They are just going to turn on to Deuces, who with the Entomb is going to get locked down. That's going to be another kill going over to Nomia, and with the Web Weavers coming up just now, they're able to push so very much. They have the middle one going down quite low, but with only the ETC here to defend, it's going to stick around for quite some time. As on the top side of the map, Arcana is going to be pushing with the top side, and they are just going to expand this experience lead even more. So very strong fight coming out of Nomia. It looked like TrumpSports were able to catch up Robodobo, but with that Falling Sword, was able to get out of the ring of frost and turn it around on them and really turn it around big. Made it very good for them. Now we have a defense coming in on the top side of the map, sorry, as they're trying to get in onto Arcana, who took a bit of damage, but with the corruption and the Fell Flames coming out of Gul'dan, which is going to be forced back, so they are going to deal with the Web Weavers in due time, but they have taken so much damage all around the map on the side of TrumpSports. Nomia are just having a field day with this map. They have the wave clear, they're able to deal with it quite well, and they don't have enough gems for another turn in, but they have been so solid on the control of the map that they are not worried about it. Oh, as here comes the Entomb onto Deuces, step too far forward, tried to take a wave, and That's just going to be another kill. He should have really been aware of the fact that that entomb could be coming up any moment, having to be very careful about your positioning, as Arthas does not have any way to reposition himself once he gets stuck in that entomb. It's going to be a quite easy kill on the side of Nomia, and they're going to be able to apply so much pressure. KVA is going to be holding on to quite a stack of gems, and the rest of them, it is going to be on to split between the Jim Jam and the Shadow, so they have to be a little bit careful with their positioning, because if they get taken down and they're not able to retrieve those gems, it's going to be very hard for them to get back into this game. One thing they need to be doing is getting those handlings, getting those web weavers so they can apply pressure and at least mitigate a lot of the damage that they've suffered so far. Arcana, all the mosh pit does get interrupted, and KVA is going to fall quite soon. He's taking a lot of damage, but it looks like Arcana is going to survive with the sound barrier. Now he's going to turn it around. If you see he falls, he's going to be the first death of the fight. The Shadow's using the palm to keep himself alive, but not going to be enough. Lahana is going to be locked into a corner, and he is going to fall. Robert over with the falling sword doesn't land on anyone, but he is going to be very far forward. He's going to continue with the chase, and they're going to lock down the Arthas. He looks like he's not going to be able to get out of it, as the boop coming out of Vanilla is going to keep them in range of his team. So there's going to be another few kills going over to the side of Nomia, and they're going to be able to keep on applying pressure. A lot of the gems did get picked up on the side of TrumpSports, so they didn't lose out too much, so they still have a decent amount in the bank. But they are so far behind at this point. They're down 3 levels, they're down a talent tier, and this is just allowing Nomia to play so aggressively, and they're not even really worried about the damage coming out of TrumpSports. Yes, they have the Johanna, who is more suited to dealing with auto attacks and not so much against spells, but even though it doesn't have the spell armor, is doing quite well against the double mage, as the target does get locked down, but the follow-up is just not there, and now they're trying to turn around. Lahaka is locked down by the entomb, and the damage is going to start falling into him as the palm comes in at the perfect time. And here comes the mosh pit. He doesn't actually get it off. He is going to take out the Tigers in the end, as looks like 2 tanks on the side, or the tank on the side of Nomia is going to fall. Ben is going to lose his life, as does the Tigers, but it is going to be a 2 for 2 in the end. Still a good defense on the side of TrumpSports, who do manage to push away the side of Nomia, but they have a lot of gems to work with. They even have enough for another turn in, as John is just going to go to tap the well, but they still have a lot of time to play the map however they want. They have time to come in and hand those gems in. It's just not allowing TrumpSports any opportunity to hand the massive bank that they have for themselves, as Deuces is going very far forward. The entomb is only just now up, and they do use it immediately, but they don't have the follow-up just yet. Here comes the mosh pit. It's a very good lockdown. It looks like the Lucio is going to fall. That's the first one down, and this fight is very good for TrumpSports. The cooldown falls as well, and it looks like they're trying to take down the Johanna, but with the Iron Skin able to ignore a lot of the lockdown, the falling sword is going to be used to get himself out of there, so he does survive. But 2 very key pickups on the side of TrumpSports, and that should allow them to at least mitigate a lot of the damage that these web weavers could do. There's a very low fort in the middle of the lane, but they do manage to take out the web weaver right away as it spawns, so they're not going to be losing it anytime soon. So a very, very strong defense there coming from TrumpSports, but they're still a fair bit behind. They have a fair bit to go to get back into this game, but if they can get more fights like that, a lovely mosh pit coming out of KVA, if they can get that going in some more fights in the future, maybe we see them come back in this game. But we have known Nomia to be a very consistent team, as they have the knowledge of where the rest of TrumpSports are, as they see them all on the bottom side of the map dealing with the wave. They're just going to go immediately onto the boss as 5, and there's absolutely no one in position to try and at least get vision for TrumpSports. They're just going to be a little bit surprised when they see that go down. They are going to get a hand in with the gems. The Shadow hands in a lot of his, but as they do, the boss has been taken, so it's going to be something that TrumpSports are going to have to deal with, while Nomia are going to be handling those web weavers without too much problem. They have the wave clear, they can deal with it quite well, and it looks like they just want to go for a fight alongside these bosses. Take that out of the equation. It looks like they're trying to push forward very quickly, as the root does go down onto Robodova, but he is fine with it. He is a Johanna. He is going to take a bit of damage from the spells, but well, the tomb a little bit too early, and he's not going to be able to get anything out of it, as Arcana gets hit with the power slide, but they're able to back himself away. The Ring of Frost is going to land onto the to John, but they're not able to get too much out of it. The falling sword lands up to 4. A very strong start to the fight, as Juice is going to get the palm, but the sound barrier is going to mitigate a lot of the damage. The keep has fallen, and here comes the mosh pit, but does get interrupted, so he's able to stay alive. But the ETC does fall, and this looks like this could just be the game. The Wereweavers did go over to TrumpSports, but with the boss coming out from Nomia, they're able to just play so aggressive, and with the level advantage, and just with this composition, they have very confident playing very aggressively, and this looks like this will be the game going over to Nomia. They did get a good fight at the end there for TrumpSports, but it's not going to be enough as Nomia just forever consistent here in Australia and New Zealand. They are going to take their round 4 match. Well done to Nomia.